Hello, I'm Susan Regan, host of Connecticut Valley Views, and my guest today is Christine Rebstock. She is a transsexual woman who is the executive director of LGBTS United, and that stands for lesbian, gay, bisexual, trans, and sexual. Now, for those of you viewers out there who are unfamiliar with these terms, I'm going to read something to you. A trans woman, which is short for transgender woman, is a woman who was assigned male at birth. Trans women have a female gender identity and may experience gender dysphoria, distress brought on by the discrepancy between a person's gender identity and their sex assigned at birth. Gender dysphoria may be treated with gender-affirming care. Now, Christine, please take us through your difficult times when you, I believe it started noticing, feeling differently than what your assigned gender was at birth in your teen years, and then to your final coming out at age 52.
Well, thanks for having me, Susan. Well, yes, 12, 13 years old, I knew I was different. Oh, we didn't have internet then. We didn't have cable TV. I believe it was the Phil Donahue show would have what I think female impersonators, they called them. The people born male, they were.
Sure.
I'm like, wow, that really is, that's me. But this was the late 70s, early 80s. I didn't know what to do about it. Mm-hmm. I used to, wear old clothing around the house, I think my mom's, and tried to wear her shoes until I got too big. And of course, I went to college. I was on the national championship bowling team in 1986 at Erie Community College. I went on to cover major league and minor league sports with various newspapers here in Connecticut. And I competed in major league sporting events as a bowler later on in time. So, man, how can I be my true self? I was scared to death. Retrospect, I wish I did come out maybe in my 20s, early 20s or something. And I lived with something inside me. And as I got older, Susan, I was hoping to die before this would hit the fan, but it didn't. And well, 5 years ago, in the spring of 2019, Christine, who was locked away, broke the latches and wanted out. And telling my spouse didn't go so well. That was about this time of year, and it was a very trying period. And I did attempt suicide in June of 2019, and that's my greatest failure. Is I'm here to live and I found a relationship with God. So I'm doing much better today.
So you can be yourself. You can actually
yes.
be yourself. And I think that's what we're aiming for in this interview.
And remember, too, one thing, I think the misconception is that we're seeing you could change your sex. You can't change your biological sex. Well, legally you can, but until the day a trans man who has bottom surgery can impregnate another woman, or someone in my boat could give birth, I think we could put that to rest. Living with gender identity disorder is living with your disorder is presenting as your true self. So you're living as the opposite sex, but you cannot change your biological sex there. And that's a message I think the kids are being told wrong.
Yes, of course. All right. The last time we actually saw you in person was at the Moms for Liberty event at the Avon Senior Center in October of 23, and we're going to show a clip from that event. On Saturday, October 21st, 2023, Connecticut Valley Views attended a Moms for Liberty forum being held at the Avon, Connecticut Senior Center. What greeted host Susan Regan and executive producer and photographer Bill Regan was a throng of protesters who called the forum attendees terrorists and fascists. The word terrorist is defined as a person who uses unlawful violence and intimidation, especially against civilians in the pursuit of political aims. A significant police presence was evident on the premises. Inside the well-attended senior center, Manju Gerber, president of Moms for Liberty of Hartford County, led the forum. MFL is a group of parents seeking to realign the education system to support their values. The crowd was quite animous and very vocal. Their message was accusing you and other people who were attending the event inside the building, and they were accusing those people of wanting to burn books, which was not really the case. Could you give us a little bit more explanation about the burning books and their vocal verbiage? I mean, it almost got to a physical thing outside, people pushing and shoving and so forth. Just give us a little more description of what happened that day.
That day was unbelievable. Well, burning books is fake news. Banning books is fake news. That day or any other parental rights event I've been to, there was zero mention of books to be banned. We're just saying we want books to be age appropriate for our school-age children. And as the executive director of media and communications for LGBTS United, I'll say that our organization stands with parents and parental rights groups. We oppose diversity, equity, inclusion curriculums in government public schools, as well as we oppose the sexualization and use of puberty blockers and surgeries for minor age children. And we object to any gender transition for minor age children that emanates from outside the household and done without parental knowledge and consent. And books like Gender Queer, which I had read at the Connecticut State Board of Ed meeting in November, is sexually explicit and is not appropriate for school-age children in their libraries. Mm-hmm. And that's what it's about.
Sure. Yeah, doing it too early, indoctrinating these young people, confusing them. Let's talk a little bit. Let's be very candid about this. When they perform, or they do the pill blockers, and they perform actual surgery, and parents are not involved, perhaps not even their own pediatrician, the children's pediatrician. I mean, we don't know what goes on behind these closed doors. But if, in fact, what do they call the bottom changing if they were to remove male testicles and so forth, and then the breast either augmentation or removal of breasts? Tell them how critical this is to not be doing this at this young age, because you've seen cases when people at age 20 or 21 suddenly go, what a mistake I made, and nothing can be reversed.
Why we have detransitioners is easy. They did not have gender identity disorder. I think the medical industry and everyone behind this political leaders too, we're seeing. We can see it in front of our face that many kids have a pre-existing mental health comorbidity, but it's being diagnosed as gender dysphoria. That's a term they use today. It used to be called gender identity disorder. It is a mental health disorder. And I think the stigma of that's why we see that was in the Obama regime. The switch in the DSM code was changed, but it is a mental health disorder. And it's being glossed over in kids. Hey, here you go, your gender dysphoria. Hey, next thing you know, if you put on life-altering medication, you go down the road you can't return. And for the people to say, well, they don't do surgeries on kids. Well, the Connecticut Sentinel article showed 6 top surgeries. That's breast removal for trans boys ages 15 through 17 from a period of 2017 to 2020 in Hartford Healthcare, and that was on Husky Cell. That was taxpayer-funded operations. I only hope and pray that those kids, they don't regret their surgery, and they're not having any long-term health repercussions from that. We have to be careful. You said the term gender-affirming care. That's not a right term. We need to confirm that one has gender identity disorder, not affirm it.
So we need more mental health people involved in this.
Yes, we need more gatekeeping. Absolutely.
More gatekeeping and keeping parents involved. This is where I see a little bit another favorite topic, something that I am hoping that we can do something about, is the cost of special education. Now, I see a little overlap, and you tell me if you agree with me, that in special education we have students that have a wide range of issues. They are treated with medical care. It includes autism, various things on the spectrum, children that cannot physically manage themselves, and they attend classes in a curriculum according to what has been determined by boards that include parents, therapy people, and there are tests that they go through, and then they determine a curriculum that is best for them, and they attend institutions that will address those issues. Now, it seems to me as though this is even further confusing, because what you have is children who could be open to the indoctrination of this gender changing thing because they're already vulnerable to begin with. Do you agree with me that you see some overlap there?
Oh yes, I think we're seeing the kids with autism being diagnosed with gender dysphoria when we have to deal with their autism first. Again, you can't reverse the medication we take.
What about the pill blockers? What about the pill blockers? What kinds of effects are?
Well, they have Lupron in them. Lupron's.
Even pill blockers, what are they trying to evoke?
Well, you're trying to stop your growth. To me, interrupting a child's puberty is gambling with their long-term future health. How can you take a 12 or 13-year-old kid or 11 who's maybe Paul told me 4 something, and they're going to grow over 5 feet, and you put a pause? There's going to be some ramifications when they're on blockers and now they're 15, or when they start hormone replacement therapy at 14, which is a little too young for. I would like to see that raised to like 16. No one can tell me an answer, but there's got to be repercussions. And Lupron is used in puberty blockers, and Lupron's a drug to use to castrate sex offenders. So if we're going to castrate sex offenders, but it's being told it's safe and reversible for our young children. I don't buy that. And that's and we're not hearing that in our mainstream media.
Yeah, so do you think that either parents or therapy people, are you able to differentiate an actual issue, a gender confusing issue, dysphoria, from one who has just been exposed to these books, these events where transgender people are there, they're putting on dancing, whatever, encouraging library books that are out there for children in some of our schools and institutions. Do you think that we're able to actually identify the ones who truly have a problem and those who have just been indoctrinated?
I think
clues.
Yeah. There's 1.6 million trans people in the country. That's a percentage of the population. But there's so many kids who are, quote, identifying as trans. Why is that? Well, we have social media. It's poisonous. I wish parents would put the brakes on kids go on Snapchat, TikTok, Facebook, etc. And social emotional learning, as well as the other woke diversity, equity, inclusion curriculums such as critical race theory. That brings it into the classroom for elementary school kids. And look what in Granby last year, they had the Pride videos that they showed when parents opt out, that was ignored. And how about those 8-year-olds sent home with puberty kits?
Yes.
And this is a social contagion. I think kids think, hey, being LGBTQ plus is cool. It's an in thing. No, living with gender identity disorder is brutal. You don't want to do this. You don't want to do this.
Now, for parents out there who are watching this show and who are very concerned about their child, what would be the first thing you would recommend? If their child comes home and says, I've been talking to my friend or whatever, or I've been talking to a teacher, they actually admit they've been talking to a teacher, and they say, I'm a boy, but I actually feel more like a girl. If you start to see these clues, what would you recommend a parent do? Where do they go? What do they do in order to do the right thing by their child?
All right, first things first, take social media away from the kids. Find out who they're hanging around with, if there's any after-school clubs. If there are, see what they're about. Maybe that's the clue from being around the kids. And if that just persists, then make an appointment, find a mental health professional. One that's not quick to, quote, affirm someone.
And your own pediatrician, right? I mean, wouldn't you go to
Yes.
a pediatrician, perhaps if you have faith in them and you felt good about what they've done for your child thus far with regard to, the standard shots for school, and you're feeling comfortable about that. All right, because it's very critical at this point to catch it as soon as possible in order to do the right thing. Because if your child is really having confusion, and it hasn't been brought on by somebody encouraging them, or it's the trendy thing to do, or it's a trendy thing to say that I feel this way or whatever. And then this leads to other things, is that in school, kids are getting harassed for certain things, either for not going along with the crowd or for being different. And I know that you expressed the fact that you were feeling different and you weren't quite sure what to do about it, and was anybody going to understand you? That was a tumultuous time for you to try and decide when to come out, and I'm sure that in the 70s, you said, that was not only confusing to you, but embarrassing or whatever, correct?
Yeah. Hey, at first I'll say this, I get accused of, quote, hating trans kids. I don't. I want to see them be themselves, but we need to get them proper mental health therapy. Let's avoid medical transition till they're maybe at least 16 to start HRT, but no blockers, no surgeries at all until their legal age, and you have a confirmation of the diagnosis of gender dysphoria.
So you would say 18, would that be the right?
Surgeries. We had a group meeting at LGBTS United. We're like, we're okay maybe with HRT at 16. The current standard's 14. 14's too young. Mm-hmm. And no puberty blockers. We're seeing what the UK recently decided they're not going to administer them to kids, and that's been a trend in the European countries. Mm-hmm. But yet here, hey, we're all for it, right? That's our government is for it, and we have an attorney general that's all for hiding kids when they express their gender identity is different than what they were born with. They could hide that. They encourage the schools to hide that from the parents.
Yeah. All right. Now, next June. June's coming up, and that's June Pride Month. I guess they're going to have a lot of events. And you refer to the sponsors of these venues as the Rainbow Mafia. That was your proprietary, term for them. Is that right?
The Rainbow Mafia, yes. LGBTQ plus, IA, whatever letters and numbers they're up to today. Well, just saw a story in Connecticut Sentinel last night that Mansfield Pride is going to, on June 7th, have an event at downtown stores. But they're going to have a drag queen story hour for kids at, 7 o'clock at night. And this is a state-funded grant that's being paid for this event. So we, the people, are paying for kids to be indoctrinated. I don't hate drag queens. Trust me, I've been to drag shows. They're for adults. Pride festivals are for adults. Parents, leave the kids home. Yeah. That's all. And to LGBTS United, we feel that only government flags, signs, murals should be displayed on government property or government-funded property, which includes that Pride color sidewalk in Main Street in Middletown should be paved over, as well as the BLM mural on Trinity Street next to the Kremlin on Capitol Avenue in Hartford, or a sign at Duncan Ballpark. That's a taxpayer-funded park, or the BLM sign at Southern Connecticut State University. How about one flag, the American flag?
All right, let's shift a little bit here. Give us a brief overview of a woman's sports bill, some efforts that you've made towards establishing that.
When I looked into, we've heard about what was going on in high school sports. I looked into the rules. And my sport, I'm a bowler. The United States Bowling Congress has testosterone suppression rules I have to follow, with a letter from my provider to the headquarters, which is in Texas, and I have to send a video of my performance. Yes, I did bowl 3 women's events in the fall of 2021. That was it, because someone named Leah Thomas came on the scene. And that opened my eyes. I'm like, yes, okay. It was like message from, God, okay, we can't do this. It's not my place as a trans woman to be an elite women's sports. So let's, even though it's in the rules, but it's not ethically for me. So let's take steps. Let's try to change this. So, all right, I got fed up. Last year, I decided to do something. So I wrote a letter to the USBC, and their response was, sorry, we cannot do that, Christine. Because of you, we follow the United States Olympic and Paralympic Committee on Transgender Women and Women's Sports rules. And it would violate our own gender identity inclusion. So they're going down the DEI road.
Sure.
But the CIAC and many high school organizations don't have a testosterone suppression rule in effect. But if, and Attorney General William Tong was on NPR last year, he said that trans girls are girls, and I called him out on that in Gary Byron's Talking Connecticut show when he did Open Phones. He said, that's the law. I said, well, maybe I should try to run for state rep to try to change that. So if anyone wants to come up with a law that's ban trans girls in high school sports, you're going to have the ACLU after you. So I sent a testosterone suppression proposal in March of 2023. And I didn't hear from him in April, so I went down to the headquarters 3 times within a week, left a name and number, nothing, crickets. So I revised the proposal this past February. Again, nothing. But we both happened to be at the Legislative Office building giving testimony, and I ran into him, and I asked him, he acknowledged he received my emails. I said, this is important that we give our trans girls, they have to follow these rules because they're going to have to follow them as adults anyway, so let's prepare them for when they become adults. And he expressed no interest of any further discussion. So for 2 organizations, it was just like talking to the wall.
Well, it's a difficult road, but what I want to commend you on is that you have been very strong. I know that you have expressed the fact that you have received support from people. However, both the right and the left have also attacked you for taking such a conservative stand, given the fact that you are a trans woman, and you're very brave. And more than that, I think what we are expressing today in this interview is the fact that we know the issue exists, but we are allowing it to be run away with a group of people who are trying to take over the authority of parents, their involvement in their child's health and care going forward. It's very dangerous what's happening. It is, in most cases when this happens, irreversible at a later stage. And I think it's very important that this message gets out. Now, some of the things, your recommendations to help cure this, I refer to as an insidious assault on our nation's youth, because obviously it goes outside the boundaries of Connecticut, and it becomes a national issue. So you can correct me on these points that I'm going to state. Stop saying gender affirming care. Is that correct?
Yes.
Let parents parent. There is a proposed bill that was brought up by the Family Institute of Connecticut. Remove critical race theory, social and emotional learning, the DEI message, and cut out the social media. Parents really have to monitor what's going on with their kids, because this is where they are getting these messages, and it's very important that parents stay involved in their children's lives. And this is very important. Allow any trans individual to be treated as an actual person and to live their lives as their true selves. This is the way they can be mentally healthy and be accepted by society as their true self. Are all those statements appropriate, as you have mentioned before?
I agree. I think, yes, we should talk about gender confirming. Confirm your gender, that you have gender dysphoria, not affirm it then.
Well, this has been one of the most interesting interviews I think I've had in some time, and it's a very critical topic. So I know you have not launched a website as yet. but you said you can find more information on Twitter. Is that correct about your group?
Yes, it's LGBTS United on X.
Okay. All right. Well, again, very much appreciate your candid commentary. And we hope that we have clarified the status for our viewers as to some of the issues, identified them, and perhaps given some positive direction as to how to overcome this very challenging subject. Connecticut's youth, we really have to protect them from the risks of subjecting them to the exposure to inappropriate age, transgender indoctrination. And it truly is indoctrination. So I want to thank our viewers, and certainly we look forward to following up with you, Christine, further down the line to see how things are progressing with your group. And we want to tell our viewers to please see this segment and all of our programs on ctvalleyviews.com. This is Susan Regan. Thank you for joining us today.